In 1949, a boy under the pseudonym of Roland Doe underwent a series of exorcisms that is considered by some to be proof of demonic possession. In today's story, we are focusing on the strange happenings that plagued Roland, ranging from floating objects to full-on demonic episodes. This video contains graphic descriptions accompanied with unsettling imagery. Some humans may find the following content disturbing. Roland Doe was born on June 1, 1935, into a German Lutheran family, and throughout the 1940s lived in Cottage City, Maryland. Roland was an only child and relied upon adults in his house for playmates, primarily his Aunt Harriet. His aunt, who was a spiritualist, introduced Roland to the Ouija board, which the boy quickly took a liking to. In late 1948, Aunt Harriet would become ill and passed away. Shortly after her death, the family began hearing scratching sounds coming from the floor and walls of Roland's bedroom. Ordinary objects such as cups began flying or levitating when the boy was nearby. Water would drip from his bedroom walls, and sometimes his mattress would violently move without explanation. Roland would begin screaming, as though in agonizing pain for no discernible reason, and marks appeared on his body as if scratched into his skin by an invisible force. He also started to have aversions to sacred and religious objects, such as crosses and paintings of religious figures. Roland's behavior took a turn for the worse when he became physically violent with his mother and even defecated on the walls of the home. Thinking their child was suffering from behavioral problems, Roland was evaluated by both a psychiatrist and medical doctor, both of which were unable to find anything physically or mentally wrong with him. Desperate for answers, they turned to the church for help and contacted their Lutheran minister, Reverend Schultz. The Reverend requested that Roland stay the night at his home to see if he could observe any of the claimed happenings. He later reported that he witnessed Roland's bed shaking so violently that Schultz was forced to remove him from it. He also said that Roland had been thrown from a chair he was sitting in. Reverend Schultz was convinced something paranormal was taking place and referred the family to the Catholic Church. Roland then met with a young priest named Edward Hughes. Hughes was convinced there was something evil inside of Roland when a telephone flew off of his desk and across the room when he and Roland were talking. He also claimed that Roland would speak to him in Latin, and that the temperature in his office would drop any time the boy would enter the room. Hughes was soon cleared to perform an exorcism after he convinced the local archbishop of Roland's condition. The first exorcism would take place at Georgetown University Hospital. Only a few minutes in, Roland became extremely violent and stabbed the priest in the shoulder with a broken bed spring he had ripped from the bed. Hughes required over 100 stitches and would never attempt another exorcism on the boy again. For the time being, Roland would go home. Soon after his return, fiendish laughter would be heard throughout the house, and there was the sound of shouting, like the barking of a dog. Roland's bed would bang and shake as deep bloody scratches zigzagged across his body. The situation climaxed when Roland had a screaming fit in the bathroom, in which the word Louis appeared in welts on his chest. When Roland's mother asked him if the message meant St. Louis, where the family had relatives, a response formed, spelling out the word yes. It was around this time that the family decided to move to St. Louis, Missouri, and seek further help. They reached out to one of their cousins who attended St. Louis University, who spoke to her college professor about Roland's condition. This ended up with a priest named William Bowdern and a priest named Raymond Bishop heading to Roland's home to evaluate him for demonic possession. They said to have observed a shaking bed, flying objects, and the boy speaking in a guttural voice. The visit left the priests quite shaken. They appealed to the archbishop, who agreed that a full exorcism should take place as soon as possible. The exorcism would begin in March of 1949 and be performed in Roland's bedroom. Father Bowdern, armed with a team of 9 priests and 48 witnesses, would lead the rituals. Over the next 6 weeks, Roland would be subjected to the exorcism rite 30 times. The boy's reactions to the exorcisms were immediate. Roland would enter a trance-like state and begin speaking in a low demonic voice. His body would contort into unnatural positions, where the heels of the boy's feet would touch the back of his head. One night, a deep voice coming from the boy told an attending priest that he would die in 10 years and would burn in hell. Then he spat a foul substance all the way across the room. Words and images would be scratched into the boy's skin, the markings often lasting 3 to 4 hours. On one occasion, the word hell appeared on Roland's chest, accompanied by an image of the devil on his right leg. The devil was portrayed in red. His arms were held above his head and seemed to be webbed, giving the hideous appearance of a bat. In another incident, a pitchfork-shaped pattern of red lines moved from the boy's thigh and snaked down towards his ankle. A red X then appeared on Roland's chest, leading the priest to believe he was possessed by 10 demons. Walter Halloran, a young priest who was assisting in the exorcisms, claimed there was no way the markings on Roland's body were self-induced, and that they appeared almost 30 times a day. The exorcisms would take place in the evening, but Roland's bizarre behaviors were most prevalent at night. After one of the exorcisms, Roland slept for a few hours, but when he awoke, he battered his fists uncontrollably on the headboard and then onto his pillow. Later emerging from this trance, he claimed he had been fighting a huge red devil that felt slimy and very powerful. The boy said he was at the top of a pit of fire, 100 feet deep, and the devil had been trying to pull him into the coals. In these nocturnal episodes, Roland would become incredibly strong, exhibiting strength beyond a normal boy. During one of the exorcisms, he lashed out with blows, breaking Father Halloran's nose. The priests had to hold him down as they prayed. Roland urinated all over his bed, spewed obscenities, and screamed at the priests that Satan would always be with him. It was the final straw for his family, who took him swiftly to the Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis for treatment. Roland's bizarre episodes continued, night after night, until April 18th, the Monday after Easter. The boy's possession ended during an electrical storm at the hospital when he was being attended to by the priests. Roland began to shake uncontrollably before sitting straight up and proclaiming, "He's gone." Roland told the priests he had visions of a beautiful man with flowing wavy hair. The man was holding a fiery sword and standing over a pit containing a devil. After the last exorcism was completed, witnesses of the rites reported hearing a loud shotgun blast. It had been lightning that struck the crucifix on the hospital roof. Roland Doe's encounters with devils would cease, and the boy ended up living a normal life. Except for becoming a frickin' NASA scientist. The story about Roland's exorcism was featured in a 1949 Washington Post article, but in large part was kept private by the church. 20 years after the incident, an author named William Peter Blatty who had heard about the boy while attending Georgetown University, tracked down one of the diaries containing the priest's accounts of what transpired. Blatty would release the best-selling novel, The Exorcist, in January of 1971, which was based heavily on what he found in the priest's diary. Blatty claims the novel was based on true events, although there is no proof that what's contained in the diary actually took place. December of 1973, Blatty's novel had been adapted into a movie and released in theaters, scaring the hell out of people around the world. The ritual of ridding demons through exorcisms, which had largely disappeared since the 19th century, became a mainstream concept. During 1975, after visiting several doctors, a devout Catholic family in West Germany was trying to figure out what was wrong with their daughter. Anneliese,